Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
My name is Gianluca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a dream. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Here we go, guys. This is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. Another Sunday night show. I'm very excited because when I created this show, I visualized an opportunity to meet people who represent us, or they're supposed to represent us, and knowing from each other, try to improve them, and of course, try to create the best government that we can. After all, supposed to be a government for the people, by the people. And, I really believe that the local government, probably a state government, is one of the most important form of government that we still retain. I lost a lot of hope in what's going on in Washington, but I still believe that we can somehow help to improve our state legislators. I really love the state where I am here in Arizona. I think even with the imperfections, one of the best places in the world, at least for me, coming from Italy. And today I wanted to talk with one of our legislators, exactly as a senator for the state of Arizona. That is not my senator, he's from another district, but I think he has some very controversial bills that he presented in the past, is presenting now. And he also has some good bills that I really like when it comes down to Second Amendment. But, the purpose of the show, as I said, to know each other better. And then at that point, we the people, we are the one that we need to investigate and even talk about it. Okay, so anyway, I have the honor to have with me, and I hope I do not destroy his last name. I'm sure I'm going to do it right, but maybe not. Senator John Kavanagh. John, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please correct me about the last name. I'm sure I didn't say it right.
You were close enough for government work. It's Kavanagh.
Kavanagh. Perfect. I'm going to do better. Now, I'm going to go straight. You're a busy man. I know you're going to go on the floor in 30 minutes. So I want to go straight to business. First of all, little bit about you briefly, your background, and how many years you've been serving as a state legislator. Go ahead, please.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in New York City, Queens specifically. I attended Catholic elementary and Catholic high school. I then did my undergraduate work at NYU in social studies. I became a police officer right out of college while I was Port Authority of New York and Jersey Police. I was there for 20 years. I retired as a detective sergeant. I worked mostly at the bus terminal in Times Square when it was a wild place. And I also taught in the police academy. While I was a cop, I got a master's degree in government because I've always been interested in public policy. And it was also public administration. I wanted to be the police chief. But after teaching at the police academy, I realized that I loved teaching. So I went to Rutgers and I got a PhD in criminal justice. And I'm currently a full-time college professor of criminal justice at Scottsdale Community College. While I was a police officer, because I was interested in politics, I was on a town council in the small town that I lived in, outside of New York City. Moved to Arizona after 20 years of police work. Taught college there. Still teach college there. Spent 6 years on town council in my hometown here in Arizona, Fountain Hills. I also served on a lot of boards, Parks and Recreation and the like. And I am in my going into my 10th year in the legislature. I spent 8 years in the House of Representatives, and I'm in my second year in the Arizona State Senate.
Perfect. Okay, so you're really what we can call a pro in public business here in Arizona because, we have term limits. So you almost reach your term limits for the second one. I mean, you have what one more time or you're done?
Well, I can do another 6 years in the Senate. It's 8 years in each chamber.
Yeah.
Although once you leave a chamber, your odometer resets. So
it resets. Okay. Anyway, you're a pro. Consider yourself that
I've been around the block.
Exactly. Now, I want to be very fair with you because, I was studying a little bit about your background and before we go ahead, I want to be sure that you know a little bit about myself, not because I am on the show to be the guest, but myself, I consider myself, first of all, everything but a left wing. I consider myself a person who took an oath to defend this constitution when I became a citizen, naturalized citizen in 2005. So, I'm not here to, I want to give a lot of credit for good things that you've done when it comes down to some individual rights, for example, to the Second Amendment. Then correct me if I'm wrong. I did the research. I want to be sure you confirm. For example, you were a person that, one of the legislators that you supported a bill like HB 2339, authorizing individuals with state-issued gun permits to carry in public buildings. That you supported that, right?
I did, and actually we didn't get it passed yet, but I'm the prime sponsor as we again try to get that bill passed.
So that was a good thing. When you understand that the law-abiding person is the best defense we have against, with a weapon against criminals. Of course, criminals do not comply with signs, gun-free zone, and things like that. I think it was a very good bill that you supported. I really appreciate that. Now, there is another bill, for example, that I really appreciate. For example, HB 2326 prohibits identifying information of firearm owners from being maintained. That means you are against any type of database, correct?
Absolutely, because that's the first step towards rounding things up.
So this is very good because, this show, it's about, of course, guns and freedom beside love, the latter part. So I think it's very important to know that you are right on the spot with the Second Amendment, at least for what I see here, according to your voting records. Now, another important...
I have always had an A+ rating from the NRA.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, I'm not really, I'm more for the... other organization like the Arizona Citizens Defense League, but you know what? Even the NRA sometimes it gets it right. Okay.
No, and I have there, and I work with them on many of these bills.
I know. That's why I want to be fair. Here it's about a dialogue, and I want to see. You got good stuff going on, and I want to understand things that we may disagree. How your brain, works, because maybe you have your own good reasons. I would like to understand more. Okay. For example, another important things that I like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Because I want to be very fair also with the listeners, because sometimes, everybody stop to see the top of the iceberg and they don't see all the other work has been done, okay? So before we judge anybody, because I don't like to judge people, but when it comes down to politicians, it's our duty to at least have an analysis of what's going on, because after all, you work for us. The SB 1167 prohibits the use of photo radar and red light cameras. You oppose that. I mean, you do not want this type of completely... use of cameras without sense, without any type of justification. Am I right or wrong on that one?
Yes, I do not like photo radar at all because first of all, because it often becomes a speed trap. And the second reason I don't like photo radar is because it does not allow for the police officer's judgment. In Arizona, it's really prudent and reasonable speed, and a police officer can't give you a summons if you're going above the speed limit if road conditions are such that it's safe to do so. Photo radar, it just clicks you like mechanically. There's no judgment there, and I think that's wrong. Good.
And this is very important, because I tell you, I'm very passionate about that, because after all, think about it, a person who is drunk and is not only breaking the law but also endangering others. That photo click is not going to save anybody. It's going to take a photo and maybe one day it's going to give a ticket to somebody. By the end of the day, somebody's going to get hurt, or at least potentially can die. So it's not really a deterrent to bad people. It's not going to stop them anyway. So good. I'm really glad, because I did when I never bring a guest here, I'm trying to be 360 degrees. I want to bring everything I can, and this is my job. Really. Now, another important thing I appreciate about you, and I'm talking about the things that I agree. So you know where I'm standing here. First of all,
good. But hey, it's fun to disagree. So let's.
No, don't worry. I'll get there. Okay, I'll get there. Don't worry about it. And it will be fine and civil, like normally I am, and sure you are. But I like, first of all, bring the good things, because I don't want to just get out and seems like this is an ambush interview. This is something about to know each other.
I'm from New York. I'm born and raised in New York. I love that stuff.
That's fine. But, I'm also fair, and I tell you got some good stuff going on when it comes down to Second Amendment and to, of course, also the right to be left alone on the highway in case we break the law. Now, the important thing I like, for example, that you requires, there was a bill, SB 1340, requires photo identification for early ballot volunteers. That means you support the fact that somebody wants to go there and vote. That is a right, but at the same time, like we're supposed to go there when we pay with our credit card, or we go out there and we do many other social and economic transactions, we're supposed to give our ID for avoiding fraud. In the same way, you support an identification even for the voting situation, correct? Good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to protect the integrity of the ballot. And, in as much as people have no problem producing an ID card to get 30 cents off of a container of milk in their supermarket, I don't see a problem with doing the same thing with something much more important like voting.
Perfect, and I completely agree with you. This is, for me, something, that's why they pretty much want all this illegal immigration, because they want to start to have numbers to destroy us at the polls. That's the bottom line.
Right.
So there is a lot of good stuff. Now, I want to go into things that it just came to my attention that, somehow it made me think. And I said, wait a second, before I'm going to go out there and bash the man, let me ask him a question, because maybe I'm sure he has some logic, and I would like to ask that. I want to go straight to the point. There is a point. First of all, before we go there, what do you think about pieces of legislations like a couple years ago, 2012, we had Congress, of course, with the blessing of Mr. Obama, passing the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 that with a specific clause of indefinite detention, that there is no more Magna Carta. We are right now completely no habeas corpus, and there is no more due process. The government, just because I'm suspicious that you are a terrorist, and now we know very well that people that would disagree with the government or believes in the Constitution or gun owners or people who believe in peace or whatever you disagree with the government, you can be labeled a domestic terrorist. You can be detained indefinitely, not just by the police, but now by the military. What do you think about that National Defense Authorization Act of 2012 with this sort of clause? Do you support it or not?
Well, I generally support it, but so long as there's due process, so long as these individuals have a right to have a court hearing where the facts are brought before a magistrate to make sure that they're reliable. So I don't believe in voiding due process, but I don't have a problem holding people if they're enemy combatants by the same token.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's say at this point, every, I don't want to say white man, but according to the new Homeland Security documents, Christians or people that they do not believe in socialism or communism, they are considered somehow domestic terrorists, and you don't need to be much to be an enemy combatant. Just because you believe in the Second Amendment, you're on that list. Now, my point is...
I was thinking more about, like ISIS terrorists and the kind of people we have at Gitmo. When it starts to get into local political stuff, it's a lot more cloudy, and I get really worried.
Well, all I say, the point is indefinite detention without any type of trial and type of system that, not even in China they do that stuff anymore. At least they give you a funny show and funny trial, and then they shoot you in the back of your head. But this belongs before pre-Magna Carta. We know everybody should have some sort of a trial.
No, I do want to see due process in the system.
Okay, good. Okay, I want just to know what is your mindset on that type of legislation. Now, what do you think about Obamacare? Because, I'm sure probably I know, but I don't want to assume, where the government claims ownership over your body and can force you to buy a service or a product against your will. What is your position on that?
Yeah, I was one of the Republican legislators that voted against the Obamacare expansion, and I was also one of the legislators that signed on to the lawsuit to reverse what I consider to be the illegal expansion that took place in Arizona.
Perfect. So we agree on that. I'm glad, because, that's a travesty. I completely call it that's slavery, when the government can force me to do something against my will, especially when there is no other people injured. This is just for my body. So do you believe that... after all, I don't want to know what you believe. I like to ask you, and I don't want to assume. What do you believe? Who owns our government? Excuse me, our government, our body, us or the government, or maybe God? Depends on what is your religion.
Yeah.
What do you believe?
Well, certainly our thoughts and control of things like medical care and what we eat and where we take care of ourselves, who we associate with. That's obviously us, and the government shouldn't be controlling that. They should be protecting it from interference.
Very good, very good. So the government cannot pretty much tell me everything, what to do unless I infringe on somebody else's rights. Because after all, you agree with me, the role of government is to defend people's rights. Do you agree with that statement?
To keep us safe from internal disorder and external threat.
Yeah, and also, we have all basic unalienable rights, and the government, they were created to defend those rights, not to give us welfare or other stuff. That's
right. No, I believe in limited government, and
perfect.
And I think charity should be mostly personal.
Very good. Now, I have this question, because but just to let you know, I do not smoke anything. I do not smoke cigarettes. I hate the smell of everything around me. I'm pretty much pure that I don't even take aspirins, okay? But I really when I started to learn about the idea of who owns our government, to me, our body, I came down to the point that I see that now many people become felons just because they own or possess a plant in their homes for personal consumption, like, for example, a plant of marijuana. I know that you are pretty much against any type of legalization of marijuana. How can you justify that when there is no infringement on other people's rights? Because after all, we can drink freely in our own home, and if we break the law, we become a danger like a DUI, we could be punished justly. And why cannot, for example, a free human being, a free Arizona, cannot, for example, smoke a plant that we know, by the way, can be also less dangerous than alcohol? I mean, thousands of people die every year with alcohol abuse. But more important, beside the fact dangerous or not dangerous, if we really own our body and not the government, if we do not ask for welfare, this is our money, why should we be punished and become a felon if we make the choice to smoke a plant like marijuana?
Well, I think marijuana is actually a very dangerous plant. We're not talking about the marijuana of the 1960s. The marijuana that's being grown today is 4, 5, even 6 times as powerful as the marijuana back in the 60s and 70s that most people, remember. So you're talking about a very potent drug. You're talking about a drug that, if it gets into the hand of developing teenagers who use it on a regular basis, can literally cause permanent alterations to their brain and their behavior. And there is no medical condition has been identified by the FDA as responding to marijuana. I think that alcohol, while people can abuse alcohol and there's deaths from alcohol, it's nowhere near as dangerous as marijuana. Plus, it would be impossible to make alcohol illegal. It's easy to keep marijuana illegal.
I have a question.
And people only smoke marijuana to get stoned, whereas I'll go to dinner and I'll have a glass of wine, or I'll be in a bar and I'll have a beer with somebody, and I'm not doing it to get stoned. I'm just doing it to get, social.
But I have a couple points. First of all, you can get, a lot of people out there unfortunately abuse alcohol, and that's legal. And, there was an amendment in the Bill of Rights when the Congress wanted to make a prohibition. And I really believe if we want to follow the Constitution, if we want to make a substance for consumption, for personal consumption, illegal, probably should be made an amendment in the Bill of Rights, like it was there, of course, was repealed. But my point is even another one. I want to go a little more radical with you, okay? If we really own our body, okay? If we keep our basic, simple concept, philosophy of freedom, that I have the right to do whatever I want to myself or in my life until I do not infringe on somebody else's rights. That means I am in my own home. I didn't steal the money to buy that plant or whatever it is. It can be very toxic. We're going to call it marijuana. I can call it a rat poison. If I really do own my body and not the government, and the government should not be legislating on morality, otherwise we go back to the Taliban. We can go back, for example, also to the police, moral police in Saudi Arabia. I should be able to smoke rat poison if I want in my own home if I do not endanger others. Why can't the government can take this in their brain and start to say, wait a second, you are not my dad. If I want to smoke marijuana, you can say, we can debate all we want that this is more dangerous than the 60s or 70s, whatever. It's still my body. If I get caught driving or being a danger to others, you throw me in jail. But meanwhile, nobody's going to storm my home and take possession of my property and confiscate my property and become a felon just because I have a plant. What do you think about that? Is it too radical?
Well, the exact same argument you're making, you can apply to heroin, to methamphetamine. It's a matter of how dangerous is the substance. And I think these substances are dangerous, and I think they make people less productive human beings. They give these people medical problems that the rest of us have to pay for. So there's a lot of harm being caused, and the research with adolescents is devastating in terms of loss of IQ and drive and potential. They have some really deep, lasting negative effects, and I just don't think society is going to be good. I think we're going down the wrong road if we legalize it.
I told you this is somebody that I don't even smoke it, but I'm just doing this for a philosophical conversation, because I think even we have differences, I like to tell you exactly what it's about. Because after all, I'm telling you, if they can do this with a plan today, I got news for you. And I don't want to give you bad ideas. I heard that if you smoke sage, you get really stoned. And I like sage because I make my pasta with some special butter and sage.
I think you probably just get sick.
No, you get I never smoke it, but I have some friends, they did smoke it. Sage can be completely hallucinogenic. At that point, the government can, I don't want to even mix things with chemicals with natural, okay? And of course, my opinion is even more radical. I think I should be able to smoke red poison, and the moment that I break the law, and the moment I become a danger to others, like I steal or I kill somebody, yes, I need to be punished. But the moment that I'm in my own home, it's my body. I'm not collecting any welfare. If I want to smoke 2 pounds of marijuana, I should be free to do that.
Yeah.
But
I understand your argument, and there are a lot of conservatives on the libertarian, side of conservatism that espouse that. I just think the cost to society is so negative that it outweighs the libertarian, instincts that I have.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on from there.
Sides of the scale here.
Okay, let's move on from that. At least I'm glad we had a little conversation about it. Now, very important. We go back to the two things before. Benito Mussolini. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
And my
Not
family.
Personally, but
Me too. Not myself, but my grandfather was on the run because he wasn't joining the party. Okay, so the point is, one phrase that I remember that the man said, it's about fascism, and the definition of fascism is also called corporatism. It's the union between corporations and the state. And I have a question, and I like Arizona very much. There are a lot of things I like about the state, but there is one thing really make me freak out a little bit. And I tell you also why, because I have some logic, is the privatizations of prisons. And I tell you why. When we have somehow states like, for example, Arizona, that must completely by contract guarantee at least some sort of occupancy in the facility, like 95% or whatever, we have some sort of a system that can become corrupted because to prevent lawsuits, like for example happened in Colorado, the private prison system sued the state because they could not guarantee the type of customers. I'm talking about customers as a...
No, I know the argument, and let me explain it.
Please, go ahead.
Well, let me explain why we use private prisons.
Go ahead,
We
please.
use private prisons because they're cheaper. I've been on the Appropriations Committee for all 10 years here in the legislature. 6 years as chairman in the House side. And we look very closely into this. And when you take into account the better efficiencies of a private prison, the fact that they are not burdened by outrageously high public pension retirement costs, and the fact that they build the prisons for us and we don't have to put the money initially for the capital expenses, they are significantly less expensive. In addition, we are allowed to have on-site inspectors to make sure that they're fulfilling the terms of the contract. And in the contract, we designate the services and everything else. So they provide pretty much similar. They provide similar levels of service at less cost, which I think I owe to the taxpayer. Now, the issue of the guaranteed inmates is one of the arguments made against them. And we do guarantee them an occupancy rate, because the reason we do that is that the contract says you, private company, will build this prison with your own money, and then we will give you a certain amount of money per day per prisoner, called a per diem. What company in their right mind would agree to put $100 million of their money up front to build a prison, knowing that 2 weeks after it's built, the government could say, you know what, we're not going to send anybody there?
How do we guarantee?
That's part of the deal.
I understand, but how do we guarantee people? Maybe if everybody starts to become law-abiding citizens, at least we do not commit any harm to others. And I know that the machine in this case, we need to make.
I'll tell you what we would do in a case like that.
Yeah, what do we do?
First of all, we have a massive shortage of prison beds, so we're not even close to that problem. But let's say it did happen. We have a mixture of public and private prisons. If in fact we had less prisoners, then we would simply close down some of the public prisons, and we'd fulfill the contract with the private prison, and that would still save us more money. And by the way, after 20 years, the private prison under our current contract signs over the deed to the prison to the state, and we then charge them rate them rent for the prisoners, and we get even a lower rate.
Senator, let me tell you something. I believe in private. I believe that private can do much better than government. You're talking about a free market person here. There is only one exception in some situation that I think the government should do their job is in the judicial system, of course. Of course, the enforcement. We're talking about police, a sheriff, should be supposed to be public, and of course in the prison system, because I really believe that it's a very scary situation to go towards a police state when we have lobbyists that they will try to get more and more laws because they need to guarantee profit. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not saying.
I agree with you. I agree that the government should never be involved in enforcement. That's why I don't like photo radar, because they're private companies, and there's an incentive to get more people summoned. But corrections is not enforcement. Corrections is basically punishing people. And I've been here for 10 years. These private prison companies do not lobby us for longer sentences or longer laws. They know that we have a massive shortage of prison beds, and they haven't even come close to fulfilling the shortage. We're still about 5,000 beds short in Arizona. So they don't have to lobby for longer prison sentences, and they don't. They just try to give us the best price to save money to the taxpayers.
Very good. Okay. At least this is your opinion. At this point, the voters of your area will decide what is best for them. On this one, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we disagree. That's the only point. But that's okay. I respect you.
But there'll be one thing. The actual economics of this is not an opinion. The economics are facts that have been repeatedly verified in studies by the nonpartisan.
I understand.
Budget
I agree with that. There is a problem with the public pension system. I think is something should be compared to the private. This is completely unlawful. Not lawful. I think immoral. The fact that if you work in the private sector, you don't even make that money that close. That's wrong. The government should be working, competing with the private. I completely believe that. Maybe I hope the state legislators can change a little bit.
We're trying to change that, but the problem is a lot of the public pensions are guaranteed by state constitutions and federal contract law.
Okay.
But we're doing what we can.
I understand. The only thing I always say, sometimes I always for conserving money, but when it comes down to freedom, sometimes we should look at the whole picture because, I don't like to live in a fascist state. That's the point, but that's my personal. Anyway, now, do you consider yourself...
I've got about 2 more minutes.
Okay, I'll let you go. Let's go to the final point. There's the piece of legislation that really everybody's freaking out. You try to sponsor a bill that you said that if somebody take photos of a police officer within 20 feet, even on private property, can spend time in jail and becomes a criminal.
Well, not exactly.
Please explain to me.
What the bill says is it recognizes that in a public place, and even sometimes in private places, you can take a photo of a police officer, a video of a police officer. But what the bill says is that for the safety of the officer, who might be distracted if you get close, and for your own safety, because if he's making an arrest and he becomes violent, you might wind up in the middle of a fight. If you're taping an officer taking action against somebody else, you need to simply stand 20 feet away. That's 1.5 car lengths. You're still close enough to hear everything. Your camera will pick up everything, but don't get on top of the cop. Just stand 20 feet away and take your video. And if you're indoors and you're in a room that doesn't give you 20 feet, the bill says you can simply stand outside the doorway and shoot in and at the activity.
Okay, just to let you know, I believe also that as a citizen, if I feel in danger, I have 21 feet to stay away from anybody else, and people should stay away from me. I understand what you're saying as a logic, like somebody's trying to harm me. I mean, I need to have some distance between me and the other person. My only thing I'm concerned a little bit, when we have, first of all, already some Supreme Court situation and Superior Courts that pretty much said that we're supposed to have the right to, as a First Amendment, to videotape police, but there is also another point. Who's going to really tell there was 20 feet and not 19? I mean, after all, we cannot record everything. I mean, how can we prove
I
that?
Understand. And I think in most cases, if a person gets close to 20, the cop will simply say, get back, you got to stay 20 feet away. I don't think cops are going to be slapping cuffs on people. I mean, there's other situations where we have foot distances, tailgating in cars, and people don't nitpick there. But the idea is simply to see, here's the problem. I was a cop for 20 years. If I'm making an arrest and all of a sudden somebody walks up who's not involved in the arrest, some third party, is suddenly standing 4 feet behind me. I don't know who this person is. Is this a friend of the person I'm locking up? I have to turn around. What are you doing? And then I take my eyes off the person that I'm arresting or searching or questioning, and they can attack me. They can dump evidence. So a 20-foot safety zone just seemed it protects the right of the person to do the videotaping. You can pretty much get everything at 20 feet as you can at 5 feet. In fact, you might even get a better scene because you're going to take in the whole scene and get context. But it doesn't distract the cop.
I understand your logic. I understand your logic. I understand what you're coming from. There is only one little point. Don't get me wrong. I think why do we even need a law like that? Because if the officer feels in danger, me as a citizen, if I feel in danger that there is somebody that I think can harm me, I say I have the 21 feet already. I say stay there. But the point, at this point, to make a law that would put people also in jail eventually, I don't even think should be a law for that.
It does. I got to run now, but 2 quick points. It doesn't put him in jail. I made it a simple violation like jaywalking on a first offense.
And the second one?
I didn't want to make it a big deal. And the second is the misdemeanor. So it's not like you're going to go into jail or prison on something like this. And I'm also working on the language because I just want to create a reasonable compromise that respects the rights of a person to videotape, but protects a cop from distraction where he or she might get hurt. And we're working on the language, and my intention is really to keep everybody safe, not to prevent people from seeing what cops do.
I understand. And Senator, remember something, you have good intentions, but maybe the next senator is going to say 20 is not enough. Let's make half mile. It's
I know, and that's when I'll be opposing the bill.
It's even like, when you have the gun restrictions, the magazine capacities, if you have now in California, you have more than 10 rounds, you are a bad person. But next year, maybe going to be more than 5 rounds, And now we have...
They're calling me to the floor. I got to run.
All right, listen, Senator, thank you. I appreciate your time. And I want to say thank you again, okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, and that was the Senator Kavanagh. That as I said, I wanted to be fair, because I'm not here to be left or right. I'm here to be honest. And I tell you, there are some good votes that he did when it comes down to the Second Amendment, according to my beliefs, of course, and I believe in the Second Amendment. I like the fact that the man is been doing good things about the rather. For me, unconstitutional rather enforcement and photo enforcement. That's something important. Now, when it comes down to the private prison, I think it's a failure, in my opinion. But, at this point, I say everybody's going to get the government that they deserve, If the people of this district, that's what they want. I always say, I disagree with him when it comes down to the fact that there is no lobby to push for more legislations. That's not true. Because now you will see that every time they're trying to put even small misdemeanor, you're going to spend some time in some prisons, okay? And they want you in the system. They want you in probation. And of course, I disagree completely when it comes down to the fact that the marijuana is so dangerous. And even if it was so dangerous, I say I can prove, first of all, scientifically that FDA-approved drugs, they're way more dangerous than marijuana. That's a fact. And we know very well the FDA a bunch of fraud because anyway, there's all revolving doors. People working for big pharmas, then they work with the FDA. So that's another fact. But if he genuinely believes that the government should rule, and this I say rule, not even legislate, because it's almost like a moral police over our habits, our personal life experiences, I think it's wrong. Because I tell you, and I don't smoke. I don't even like the smoke. I don't smoke anything. I used to smoke cigarettes for a few months when I was younger. And I said, I don't need that stuff. And I like wine, but one day they can use the same logic with wine. They could use the same logic, as I said, with sage. Even basil you can smoke and probably you get some hallucination, I'm sure. Okay? So that's the point. But as I wanted to do, I wanted to be having given it a chance to talk, explain himself, and at that point, as I said, we need to get involved. That's the best thing we can do. And I want to give the phone number of the Senator, John Kavanagh, from Arizona District 23rd, phone number 602-926-5170, 602-926-5170. Don't forget, the guy is good on the Second Amendment. He got some good points there. So I'm not saying, you say what you want, first of all. I'm not going to tell you what to say. But I say, if you believe that we have little problems here, when we open that little Pandora's vase, that cops now can tell us, how many feet we can stay by law. I tell you, if the cop feels intimidated, he can tell you, stay there. He's not going to come around there with the little measure tape. Say, by the way, now you're 20 feet. Now I'm going to arrest you. No. If I was a cop, I say, stay there. If you want to do your videotape, do it. But stay away because I feel in danger for my life. Stay there. Okay? I can do that as a citizen. If somebody I feel that can endanger me and has an object in his hands that I'm not sure, I say, stay there. And I put my hands on. And if I have to, I go on the ready with my gun. Okay, if I feel that the situation can be endangering. So I believe this sort of a legislation is almost redundant to common sense, but more important, what I really feel afraid about it could be an opening to a very worse situation for the future. Because now this bill seems like to be 20 feet. And maybe next year or next senator is going to say, let's do 200 feet. Okay? I mean, it's like the same situation for the capacity magazine, how many rounds? Now the Hell's Gate is open. California say 10. New York says 8. Next time maybe they can say 3. You don't deserve more than 1 round. That's it. Think about it. So, but anyway, the purpose of the show is not to tell you what to do, but to make you think with your own brain, do your own researches, and I invite everybody, and I respect everybody who comes on the show, even when I disagree, because that's the idea of the show. If you run like a rat, yes, I'm going to call you off. But if you're a person, even when we disagree, and you come here, you articulate your points, and at that point I say, you know what, that's great. I respect you for that, and I say let the voters decide what is best. And I hope voters gonna be more educated, and that's why I'm here. I'm just trying to share information that you can get more educated about it. Anyway, there is also another important thing you should go. Besides calling the senator, I also think you should email him. Okay, there is an email for Senator John Kavanagh. My gosh, I always forget names, and I can post this information on today's Love Guns and Freedom website. You go to lovegunsfreedom.com and you will see also his email. Okay, so hopefully he can help you out and have a dialogue. I mean, seriously, I mean, the guy seems at least is listening and he talks, and that's the good thing. In many other states, for example, like California, your state senator, you can even talk to him. I see here in Arizona, we have at least much more better opportunity. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, but at least we need to talk, try to communicate with him, and maybe try to make him understand. Maybe one day can be his son or his grandson that is going to face the private prison system. I tell you, I mean, it scares the hell out of me to be in prison. Never been in my life in any prison, but to go in a private prison, I think it's even worse. So all these movies where you see corruption, and they love to keep you in. What do you think? You're a customer. Don't forget, you are a customer. So they don't want to let you go. And they can find every way they can. And I'm not saying that there is no corruptions in the state prisons. No. Human beings, unfortunately, are corruptible. But when you go in the private business, I tell you, as a private business owner, my purpose is to have profit. Simple as that. And offer a good service. But at the end of the day, if I don't have profit, I'm not going to stay in business. And the same story for the private business of the private jails or private prisons. So they need to have profits. And who are the customers? It's us. Anyway, that's enough. Anyway, that's pretty much with today's guest. And I'm really glad he came. I want to give him that credit, Senator Kavanagh from Arizona State Senate, District 23rd. Now, little bit of a break, more news, and a lot of interesting things. We're going to have an interesting second hour about guns, training, and much more.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Here we go, guys. Back into the studio. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Just to let you know, last Sunday, as you know, this show was replayed on the station. I wasn't feeling well. The truth is that something's going on, and I really believe that I have a connection The connection is, you know very well, I've been talking about this several times, weather modification slash chemtrails. It's a reality, especially in the Southwest. Arizona, unfortunately, is hit very hard. And normally I feel great. Normally, for a young guy, I am almost 48, believe it or not, but I feel pretty well. I did my blood test, and normally when nothing is going on, I have the same type of levels when I was in my 20s, especially since I've been taking Protandim. I feel great. But every time there are these activities in the sky of spraying, of whatever material, whatever substances or agents, chemicals, we don't know for sure. We know that barium could be very well one of these elements, since we also tested for blood tests a few years ago. We did blood tests and barium was found in 90% of us who tested, like in a high, very high concentration, according to our medical doctor. We're talking about over 500-600%, the maximum allowed by the medical, let's say, basic safety levels. Okay, so there is something to do. I've been sick in a way that wasn't even funny. Okay, they started spraying. The day after, start to have the symptoms, glossy eyes, start to feel like chills, and some sort of a strange fever, but wasn't a fever. Weakness, very irritable, and different symptoms that I started to realize many of us has. And then, of course, I had muscle pain, big muscle pain. This time attacked me on my shoulders, on my arms. I could even move them. I'm very weak. I stayed 3 days in bed. So that was something very strange. And let me tell you something. If people do not believe that the government could ever test on civilians without our consent, it is so sad that you still believe to Santa. Seriously, if you're a grown-up person. There are many, many declassified documents that they can show you how this government, and not just the American government, unfortunately several governments around the world, they've been testing on civilians and also on the military without their consent with really serious programs. And for people in Mojave County that they're still laughing and they think we have a bunch of conspiracy theorists, guess what? I just gave you one magic word, maybe two words. Mojave County, Mojave Downwinders. Okay? And you know very well, in the 50s, the federal government used to do this nuclear test, and the downwinders, I mean, people that will live in downwind from the north part of Mojave County, where this activity was going on, they all got cancer and died. And now 50 years later, 40 years later, the federal government is trying to give them some charity money to have some money to probably, to shut you up a little bit because your dad or the grandfather died, or maybe you are still sick. Nothing. And at the time, I'm sure many of them, probably they will laugh at. Now, if you don't have a couple of eyes and some brain to connect the dots, I'm sorry. I'm not going to waste any of my more time. But if you are somebody who's aware or is curious, please let me know. Because we got to do something here. I mean, the fact that, I give you another number, in Italy now, I'm still, I'm in contact with my mom, my family, and they've been completely increasing this activity of weather modification / chemtrail the last few years in a huge way. So much that this year, something very strange connection, the Italian government released the numbers of unexpected, mysterious deaths in Italy. People who die without any type of real reason. More than 45,000 people died mysteriously in Italy this year. Coincidence though, since they've been increasing so much this activity of weather modification. So just think about it. We have globalists like Bill Gates. We have programs like Agenda 21. We have all these people like J.P. Holdren, John Holdren, who's the czar of science at the White House, who writes books like Eco-Science, how to reduce the population, how to mass exterminate us. The United Nations has been talking about that. And then we have these plans to carbon taxes, to tax us just because we breathe, to try to completely increase the price of food, to use the food as a weapon. Anyway, it's an attack on humanity. That's a fact. And I really believe that what they're doing today to us under the excuse of weather modification, and some, they still deny even that exists. They don't even want to tell us that. I mean, we see the planes crisscrossing each other, turning it off in front of our face, and the sky from blue become completely white smoke, and they still try to tell us that this is normal, we are crazy, that this is just a bunch of vapor trails. You know what? You need to go check your brain. I'm ashamed of you. If any of you believe that these are still planes and they're vapor trails and we are a bunch of crazy, I feel ashamed for you. Unfortunately, we're going to be stuck with your stupidity too. So you have no excuse. This is not funny. Wake up. I've been bringing out documents after documents, but now there is a point that it's almost, it's insane. It's an insult to intelligence. You can see some days we have completely no planes in the sky. It's completely blue, like in Arizona it used to be. And then out of the blue, you got crisscross, X's all over the sky, X's, non-stop. And this doesn't disappear. And then I show you the documents, I show you the different type of patents, I show you the laws, I show you stuff that, it's almost boring to repeat over and over. But unfortunately, I have to do it. And I will do it till I have some sort of a blood in my veins and some breathing. And of course, I don't care if you laugh at me. I don't care whatever you think. At this point, I have some dignity. One day, the world's going to look back at us, if there is still a humanity left, and they're going to look at stupid, people. I don't want to use names, but I tell you, unfortunately, like people who still believe 9/11 was just a bunch of, ragheads with the buzz cutters. Wake up. Wake up. You tell me that at the Pentagon, we have a plane disappearing, 2 titanium engines disappear. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Seriously, give me a break. So anyway, the same story with last week. That's why I couldn't make it, because unfortunately I was sick. And I'm sad. Now, little note, back with the airplanes from the Navy in Mojave County, especially in Golden Valley, Bullhead, Kingman. Mostly Golden Valley, though, let me tell you. Because Bullhead, the airport, it's kind of outside the city. But the Navy loves to come all over Golden Valley. We are pretty much the training area. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand we need to have train Navy, train Army. That's great. But my point is, the federal government controls billions almost of acres of federal land that we can even have access. That, if we get found now, for example, like in San Diego, trespassing by accident with a bike on this dirt land, on this holy land, controlled by the federal government, by the military, they confiscate your bike. Probably they beat you up too. Think about it. But no, they cannot. They have to go over this poor little area in Golden Valley that normally people, they are retired. They want to be left alone. Once in a while, a plane would be fine. But from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, from Monday to Friday, you tell me we did not buy a house here to be in the middle of some sort of a training area that really your ears go crazy. They drive you crazy. It's every day. And more important, that we have millions of acres. I mean, the federal government, the holy federal government, control all this federal land where there are only rabbits and snake. Can you please go there? And then when I hear this mongoloid, seriously, these bootlickers, that they love to bend over and say, yes, please, more, come. Guess what? Meanwhile, there are people that they are living in Kingman or people living in Bullhead, and most of the time, they don't even hear all this noise. And if you want to hear it because you're a sadomasochist or you like the pain, that's your problem. But remember, we're supposed to die. I mean, after all, as I said already, the federal government has a lot of opportunities to be in many parts where there are no humans. That's all I'm saying. My chickens are getting crazy. They can't even make eggs anymore. So anyway, just to let you know, we are living in crazy times in every way, even at local level. Now, a big important news. You heard what's happening already now with the economy. I mean, I've been saying that the last couple of years. 2008 was just pretty much like a warm-up. We never recover from the crisis. We never recover from what's supposed to be. They call it a recession. I already said there was already a depression. But now it's going to be a new level. And this is not according to me, according to all the biggest economists. Even in Davos, this big meeting of the New World Order bankers. They are saying it. They already said it. The economic collapse is imminent because the central banks have lost control, and it's all based on a fraud anyway. And the economy doesn't really exist. It's been an illusion. For Obama going out there and say, the economy is strong, and if you are one of these people that are alarmists, you're crazy. You know what? Meanwhile, this guy, he lives another reality. And he knows. He's not stupid. He's not dumb. He's ready to leave town, though. He's ready to leave office. Now, it's going to be, for the next idiot, the next puppet is going to face this reality. Meanwhile, just to let you know, breaking news, last Friday, just a couple of days ago, this was January the 22nd, there was a very important new bill in the Senate that is disturbing. This is another piece of the puzzle. The new war powers that the president has been given by the Senate. It would give unlimited powers to send troops to any location on the planet under the excuse of fighting ISIS. And that's also in the US, on the US soil. This is very serious. Because now the president is completely having complete authoritarian powers, like Julius Caesar, like any dictator had. We are no more in a republic. The sad thing that this Congress, no matter which party, they're all been playing game and all being responsible for what's going to happen to us. So now we have all these different senators from both parties. The authorization for the use of military force, and McConnell was pretty much part of it, would not restrict the president's use of ground troops, nor have any limits related to time or geography. So that's the point. And maybe, you know what? Now for you, the lefties or whatever, you think you're still Obama supporters, you think this is okay because this is your guy. Guess what? When was going to be the next president? Maybe a Trump. How are you going to feel that we have a new king in town, that now he can call the U.S. military on U.S. soil anytime he wants for any excuse? Just because we excuse that fighting terrorism. And now we know very well that terrorism could be anybody who disagree with the policy of the government. If you are against the war, if you are for peace, if you are for individualism, if you are against communism, gun owners, Christian, you know the story. Okay? So that's my point. This is very disturbing. And I think it's happening exactly in a very interesting time in connection with all this complete economic meltdown, that it's happening in front of our eyes. And people say, you know what, I don't care. I don't have anything in the stock market. Guess what? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let me see who is this moron calling right now. Yeah, that was just a moron. Nothing really important. But anyway, if you're not a moron, and if you want to be on the show, especially if you disagree with me, and you can articulate a thought and prove your points, I respect you. I respect you like, even when the senator that I had before, and I completely disagree on many issues. Don't get me wrong. I think it's completely wrong on this one. But guess what? I let you talk. I don't talk over you. I will talk after you, and I'll tell you exactly what I think. That's for sure. But the point is, on the show, I want to engage people that we disagree. That's the main idea. Otherwise, what we do, we just, don't get me wrong. I don't want to bring down other show on the area. But I hate to see that there are radio stations, or at least programs, that they're pretty much the official voice of a party. I don't care which party. In this case, of course, we know the Republican Party. Don't get me wrong. Even if I agree with what they're saying, I think it's very boring. I want to hear dissents. I want to hear differences of opinions. I want to hear engaging and maybe, finding that we can improve each other. I don't want to have this show and say I'm the greatest, I am right, and everybody else is wrong. Otherwise, it's really the end. Of course, most of the time I'm right anyway. But that's not the point. I want you on, especially if we have differences. And there are no filters here, no any type of censorship. Talking about censorship, just to give you an idea, there is this message board on Facebook. It's called "And the Reign of Senator McCain." Okay, and I used to be time ago like one of the administrators. Then I left because I don't have time. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I found out that if anybody talks about any other senator but Senator Kelly Ward, as the alternative to McCain, pretty much gets censors. And there was an idiot that said, hey, he deleted all my posts, he deleted everybody's post who was trying to expose the records of also, we're talking about voting records of Senator Kelly Ward. We're supposed to be allowed to talk about everything. Okay, not because we want to replace McCain, we're supposed to be shutting up and, feeling guilty just to ask questions. So I wanted just to be sure that on that board, there was some basic freedom of speech. I don't care at the end of the day, really, it's going to be Kelly Ward or somebody else winning. At that point, the voters of Arizona will decide. But I tell you, when I see somebody deleting my post just because I have questions about Kelly Ward, Senator Kelly Ward, and I suppose not to talk, or maybe I want to ask about some other candidates, that's wrong. Okay, that's called fascism. Anyway, to make story short, I was back as administrator, and this idiot that is the one that removed me, as even blocked me from the board. Forget about it. Not only deleted my post, also blocked me from the board. I was back. I led him on the board, but at the end of the day, I said nobody here is gonna censor anything. That's the bottom line. So anyway, censorship is wrong. I don't care how you cut it. It's always wrong. Okay, we should never be. If you're very confident about our values, about our ideas, we should be proud and happy to defend them. That's why I'm here. Every time I say something, I'm happy and I put my name down and I'm ready to defend it with facts. And at the end of the day, if we still disagree, that's fine. I don't care. All I care that you don't steal my money, you don't touch my guns and touch my freedom. That's the bottom line. So anyway, guys, we are looking for very tough times. The economy, unfortunately, is not going to be right. I tell you, I really believe, according to facts, that in 2016, we're going to see something that we never really seen before. And that's why I believe that these pieces of legislations, like this new Senate bill that is sneaking in Friday night in the middle of the blizzards in Washington to try to give unlimited powers to the president to deploy the U.S. military on U.S. soil, for any excuse, that's part of the game. Be ready, be prepared, and be ready also for our number 2. We will talk with a guest, my friend Jim Leeson, about guns, training, especially for ladies. So if you're a lady, I really want you empowered, okay? And then also for our number 3, I have another great guest from Germany, my friend Georg, that we will talk a little bit what's going on here with this wave of crime and this disaster with this invasion of refugees that they've been sexually assaulting all these women in Cologne, Germany, and many other towns. Don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. And don't forget, if you want to support this show, please go to www.zanna.us. And just with 99 cents, you can download any of my songs. Thank you. This is not NPR. We do not steal your money. We ask for it. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on United States.fm network.